This episode specifically, we are going to be looking at the differences and similarities and capabilities of a digital night vision scope. So this is our NEAT, that's a digital night vision.
Versus thermal. This is one of our most popular scopes, our Rattler.
Welcome back to the channel, guys. Justin here with AGM and back here with Randy as usual. And we're here for another episode of our Table Talks series, which, I mean, I'll just give the quick, brief little rundown because we've still only done a few of these, but this is a little bit less formal video series that we're trying to get into and produce a little bit more often, just to tackle some of the hot topics and frequently asked questions that we get, just as a really easy way for us to get information out there to you guys about some of these things that we often get asked about, or people maybe don't understand the difference between like certain things that we do. So this episode specifically, we are going to be looking at the differences and similarities and capabilities of a digital night vision scope. So this is our NEAT, that's a digital night vision.
Versus thermal. This is one of our most popular scopes, our Rattler.
Yeah, so both of these being optics for night hunting, but one being night vision, specifically digital night vision, and one being thermal. And one of the reasons why this would be kind of a conversation to have, some of you guys out there who are watching and who pay attention to our channel, or a lot of this might be old news to you guys. You guys might be really familiar with this. That's not the case for everybody. Some people, sometimes we hear people referring to all of the above as night vision.
All the time.
Yeah, just
we get it all the time.
Thermal's night. Anything that helps you see at night is night vision. And then, of course, we have a previous table talk about thermal versus night vision. Like, what are the differences between those two? What do those mean? So this being specifically digital night vision, and then our most common thermal scope, just so that as more people get into night hunting and more you guys are trying to make educated decisions, can really take a look at the capabilities and what we're offering here.
Yeah, I mean, to echo what you were saying a little bit, one common thing, I remember when I first started working here, I work a few shows, have a guy come up and say, hey, is this IR? And I didn't know what he was talking about, right? He was looking at our product assortment, because like saying, is this IR? Like, what is this, infrared? Or, you know what I mean?
That could mean a few different things.
Could mean a lot of things. And it took me a while to kind of understand what he was asking. And eventually I understood that he was asking whether or not our thermal scope at that time was something more like this, a digital night vision scope. So as you mentioned before, we've done kind of a discussion on analog night vision, and that is a very different technology. If you guys aren't familiar with that, check out our other Table Talks video on night vision versus thermal. It's pretty informative for that. But what we're talking about here is digital night vision, and really as it relates to a lot of people who are getting into night hunting, they kind of have the question, what should I buy? Should I do a digital night vision scope, or should I get a thermal scope? So we need to first kind of answer that, help people out. We need to help people understand what the primary differences are between the technology utilized in a digital night vision scope versus a thermal scope. Mm-hmm. They both, IR is in both of them. Yeah. so maybe talk about night vision, digital night vision, as opposed to thermal, right? Thermal is essentially, to dumb it down really simple, thermal is seeing temperature, surface temperature. That's what you're seeing. You're not seeing light in a traditional sense. You can't see through glass. You're looking at surface temperatures with thermal. So.
Yeah, and so you're still going to get the full view of the landscape, but it's going to be in specific color palettes that reflect the temperatures, and it's all put on a screen. Whereas with the digital night vision, this, like night vision, is going to basically amplify light that exists. It is different from like your analog night vision that you see in night vision goggles. So this is going to be in full black and white when you're using it at nighttime.
Big analogy I like to use is if you think of like a security camera, a lot of people have home security camera systems like I do at my house, or you're used to looking at security footage. You'll see footage, if you're looking at your baby monitor, if you've got little kids or whatever, right? The image is black and white. The actual camera has LEDs that is emitting at least some amount of infrared light that specific camera can pick up and sense. Well, a digital night vision scope is basically that, with as much power and juice as we can throw at it. But it's not that we're seeing temperature. It's not that we're seeing anything other than what your eyeballs see, but in today, black and white.
Yeah, this is actually a camera that is showing you what's out there in front of you in black and white. And then this also does have a full color daytime mode.
That's true.
A thermal optic you can also use during the daytime,
right?
But you're still going to be seeing in the same thermal color palettes that you have to choose from on the device. Whereas this, it's still a camera, so it's not like looking through a normal day scope where you're just looking through glass. But it does have a full color daytime mode, so you can use this during the day.
I would actually even say it's better in the day. Just have it so
than it is at night?
Yeah, I mean, if you go out just to target shoot or even try hunting in the daytime with a thermal scope, first, if it's the summertime, good luck, right? Because everything's hot, bodies are hot. You're not going to detect bodies as easily, especially where we are. It's rocky, so it's very hard to make out your image. But if you had to compare that to full color day with a digital scope, during day hunt use, like digital wins.
Yeah,
I think hands down.
This is good to have for that purpose.
Yeah. Now, one thing we should probably talk about is where this shines, and like what are the main differences in terms of what this can do that this can't, and why you might want this or vice versa. Because we all understand also that thermal is generally more expensive, and that's just one primary difference that is just going to be the way that it's going to be. Now, we offer thermal scopes in smaller resolutions that are closer to the price point of this, $700-800 for this. But for most people, when you're getting into a thermal scope, the vast majority like to get into at least a 384 resolution model. That's kind of the sweet spot for a lot of people. You're spending a little bit more. Not that we don't have options, but we should probably talk about that. Should I get a $1,200 or $1,500 thermal scope with maybe a lower resolution, or should I get a digital night vision scope? Maybe we can help you answer that question. 100%.
And I do think, price point is one of the most obvious and glaring differences, where you can pick up a Neath for $700 to $800,
right?
Which is significantly cheaper than most of our thermal weapon mounted options.
Which is great if you're just getting into night hunting.
Yeah, if you don't know what you want, you don't really know what you're going to be doing, or you just know you're balling on a budget. You just know you don't have a certain amount of money to dedicate to this. This is a great entry level option that is going to get you into it and is going to give you the amount of capability that you need to do some night hunting, whether it be hogs or coyotes or whatever else.
One question I get a lot on that, just to kind of add to that, you're probably weighing realistically distance capability, right? You get a lot of people say, well, if I go with this, can I actually see? Can I see out a couple hundred yards? If I'm coyote or hog hunting, will I be able to see a far enough distance and make out what I'm trying to shoot and get the job done? Or will thermal just be way better and I'll be able to detect animals at much greater distances? And the answer to that is yes. The answer,
up to a certain point.
Right, up to a certain point. The digital night vision will get the job done. Now, keep in mind, you will need some light. The sensors with digital night vision, they're not powerful. It's not analog night vision. They're not strong enough to just rely on, especially if there's no moon, just the darkness to see everything. So that is why there's a built-in infrared light to at least illuminate, about 50 yards out. But for a lot of people who get into this as an option, they'll pick up a weapon light that they'll put on their gun that is an IR light specifically, so you don't have visible light signature, that will give you a flood so that you could realistically easily at least pick up eye shine and make out, especially larger animals, a couple 100 yards, 200-300 yards away, easy peasy. The main difference being they're not standing out the same as if it was a thermal device, especially if it's night when it's cold or if it's in the wintertime. If I'm looking in the grass or the brush at a hog at 150 yards away, I mean, if it's not moving, I'm probably not going to see it straight up. Yeah. If you're not getting eye shine glaring back at you, you won't see it. Whereas with a thermal, you'll see it all day long. And even with a cheaper thermal, a less expensive one, you'll at least see heat signature out that far. Even though you might not be able to identify that animal, you'll know it's there. So those are like two things to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as far as, I mean, doing your kind of scanning and spotting and finding what's out there, thermal's always going to shine. And this is a point that we covered in our previous talk about just thermal versus night vision, which is finding things that are out there. Thermal's almost always going to shine.
In almost every scenario for night hunting, spending the money on thermal, we'll get you a better experience. But for some people who don't have the budget, digital night vision is fantastic and will get you into it. Another option that we should probably talk about is some guys already have one of these, but they want more, right? You go out hunting, you get more. Yeah, who doesn't want more? Sometimes you go out hunting and you've got your thermal scope. Maybe you have a thermal monocular, but doing things like hunting hogs and coyotes, it's a lot more fun with a small group of people, at least a buddy or a friend. But getting that buddy outfitted with a whole separate weapon system ready to take down hogs or coyotes or whatever, like that's another $3K, $2K, well, a couple $1,000 or whatever in equipment. And a lot of people, that isn't worth it. So for those guys, if you're just looking at picking up something extra that you can bring and put on a different gun, you could essentially call it like your buddy gun, your buddy setup.
Great buddy scope.
Yeah, yeah. And that way you can go out as a pair and you're not breaking the bank, and your buddy doesn't have the capability you have, having thermal, but he can at least go out and enjoy night hunting with you. Whereas without digital night vision, that's just a very expensive thing.
Yeah. Looking at just a little bit of like just differences in kind of some of the features here. With either one of these, you can bring an external battery pack and keep the scope plugged in, and it's going to run for hours and hours. It's going to run for a very long time if you do it that way.
Functionally speaking, they're both they both have screens.
Yeah. If you don't do it that way, with the Neath, we are working with a rechargeable 18650 battery.
Correct.
And with the Rattler, we're working with two CR123s.
Right. Or other scopes, right? Thermal, you can have internal, external batteries.
Yeah.
You're talking about getting into the same kind of hobby with the same kind of concern.
Yeah.
There's still battery life to consider, recording, all of that.
Yeah. Any unit is different. Even we have another scope that does that has the IR capabilities. Mm-hmm. You just need to know like what you want out of that as far as like, okay, 18650s, they're really easy to find. You can have a bunch of them with you, like charged and ready to go.
Yeah.
Same thing with the CR123s, but you got to have at least two to get this thing up and running again, and you kind of just pick and choose and decide like what's going to meet my needs and what's going to be most convenient for me.
Yep. But basically, we're still just talking about night hunting tools. Hopefully that gives you enough information to kind of make a decision. If you're considering digital night vision, you're going to be able to get into it and have a great time doing it without spending thousands of dollars. If you have a little bit of extra coin and you're thinking about getting a thermal scope, it's going to be well worth it. Like the cost difference between like a higher end thermal scope, there's like a 1-to-1 correlation with performance difference, right? Now, if you're considering digital night vision over a lower end thermal scope, it's a little bit more of a toss up. Just keep in mind with thermal scopes like our 256 resolution options, you will have detection capability that digital night vision will not have, but you won't have identification capability. With a 256 resolution sensor, even with the base mag being a little bit high, you're still not going to be able to identify, like, is that a hog or a coyote or a deer or whatever? And at like 300 yards, you're probably just not going to be able to tell. But you will see it. right? You'll just need it to get closer to actually know what it is before you take a shot. Whereas with this, you'll see those if they're moving or looking at you. But outside of that, you won't detect them. And that's just the way it is.
And looking at these two specific units, you have the 25 through 84 Rattler. Right. So we are looking at, like, as far as capability, the distance you might use these inside of, like, not too different. But forgot what I was going to say. Forgot where I was going with that.
All things aside, they're pretty similar. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, and this is just a general rule across the board, right? Depending on what you're hunting, the farther and farther away you're engaging a target, like, the less capable this is going to be. And we don't have as many options in our, this is our Neath. This is the one in the line. Rattler, of course, it gets more and more and more expensive,
right?
But you're going to get more and more capability. So if you're hunting hogs, generally we're shooting hogs a little bit closer. Mm-hmm. You're going to get away with this, like a lot of the time.
All day, easily.
We start hunting coyotes and taking shots a little bit farther out. If you can call one in closer, like, you're going to want to look into spending a little bit more money and probably picking up a little bit more capable of the thermal scope.
Probably.
Because it is going to be more capable out to a farther distance.
We get a lot of customers that just shoot like possums and crap. Right?
Yeah. And then there's stuff like that.
I got a comment from a guy who's like big into hunting, I kid you not, like rats in his farm, right? He just wants something to go out and kill some like little critters. The Neath is fantastic.
Great.
You don't need a really expensive thermal scope
no problem.
To pull that off. But greater distance, generally, I think to echo what you said, greater distance means greater capability required in the thermal optic. So that's something to consider as well.
Yeah. So if you want more detailed information about Rattlers, specifically thermal scopes or the Neath, we do have overview videos about this series and about the Neath. You can go watch any of those and get more information about specific product lines. And there's also some pretty good review videos out there.
Yeah.
On both of these that we've had, third-party reviewers have put out some pretty good review videos and just content about how capable these things are. So, feel free to go do some deeper dives, but we just wanted to take a few minutes and just kind of talk about digital night vision specifically versus thermal scopes, and what that really means, because we talk about this stuff a lot here on our channel and at events that we go to and stuff like that. So if you guys have any other comments to add about using digital night vision versus using thermal, or you got any hot takes on this topic or anything like that, you feel like there's anything we missed that should be mentioned, we invite you to please put all that stuff down in the comments. And I think that's going to be it for this one, guys. We'll see you on the next one.